All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the ISB Admissions 2021 webinar. So today we have got the team strategy for GMAT, also popularly known as S4G. So S4G, they are a team of alumni from top business school across the globe. Already, however, they have been started by two ISB alumni, Amanan Puri and Abhishek Chawla. However, apart from ISB alumni, they have also got alumni from other Indian B schools and foreign B schools as well. So recently, ISB announced the rank one application deadlines for his PGP program, which is basically the postgraduate program. And today's webinar will focus on the changes to the program, the essay analysis, and tips for writing those essays. And at the end, we'll also take questions from the audience. So we'll have the presentation approximately for around 40 minutes and 45 minutes, and the last 30 minutes will keep for the Q&A session. During the Q&A session, if you have any questions, you can type in on the chat box. In case like you have got a earphone with you, please you can raise your hand. I will approve you, and you can ask the question on here. You can use the webcam, but again, that's not mandatory. Obviously, if you have the earphone, that's obviously great, so that you can have a healthy discussion. So now, as we have got, the agenda today, so it's the introduction, then, obviously the impact of COVID-19 on the ISB PGP program, the application tips, essay discussion, and now also the essay 3, which is basically reapplicant discussion. And as we said, like the Q&A session. So just a little bit more about, I have already talked about the S4G, and so they have been helping both applicants for Indian and foreign MBA applications. And as you can see on the slide, they have got like 94% interview calls, uh, and these are again a snapshot of the team of the S4G team. So Abhishek Chawla and Manan Puri, they are the co-founders. They are the founders of the S4G team. Apart from that, as you can see, they have got alumni from NYU, UCLA, Ivy, Ross, also IMA, PGP, Stuck, Oxford, Maccombs, and also a few more alumni from the ISB. So that is a snapshot of the S4G team, and these are our panelists today. So Abhishek Chawla and Manan Puri. Both of them are like from more or less a commerce background. Sorry, Manan. Sorry, Abhishek, if I can't remember the exact details. Manan has been heading the Mercer team. He has been the VP of Mercer, and he's ex UBS. Whereas Abhishek is currently working with EY, and formerly he was with Deutsche Bank. So now I'll just pass on to Manan. I think Manan, you can start off now.
Thanks, Tanmay, and welcome everybody. Hope you all are
Okay,
staying safe.
sorry, I forgot. Just before we go on, I just have to. Sorry, guys. Just a quick question. Sorry, because I have been communicating with some of the candidates who are struggling to join. So I'm just going to ask, like, what's your current industry background? So I'm just running a poll. I'm just like this. So here is the poll. Please select your option so that we can have a bit of understanding about the audience. Okay, so it seems most of the guys are from banking and finance. So those who are saying others, could you please type in on the chat box what's your background, like which industry are you from, retail, general management, something else. Those who have mentioned other, what's your current background? If you could just type in on the chat box.
Sure, Tanmay. I think meanwhile people type, we can have
Sure.
Manan begin.
Sure. So yeah, no, Manan, please go on. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Anamitra, Oil and Gas. Uh, okay, so let's start then. So welcome everybody, and hope you all are staying safe. Uh, in this section, we will cover the quick changes to the ISB program, which now ISB is calling as PGP 2.0. Although it resulted in the changes resulted because of the COVID crisis, but these are slightly long-standing and long-impacting changes on the program. So, effectively, major changes I would call out are on the dates. So, typically, the program started in April, and now they have started in June. It is an initial 10-week online program, which is now called as Digital Head Start module, which has started from 15th of June. Essentially, it has four buckets. One is the entire orientation week, or O week as ISB calls it, which happened online, which is very interesting because a lot of these activities, such as treasure hunt on campus, etc., could not happen, but the rest of it they were able to manage pretty well. The second aspect of the DHM, or Digital Head Start module, is the academic bit, which is they are covering four easy-paced core courses, again in a digital format. They will be counting towards your credits and the graduation requirements. Uh, then there are usual leadership development programs that used to happen earlier as well, as part of the orientation week, and the lead program, which is the leadership development program, wherein you get perspectives from alumni about their industries, about how to approach the next 9 to 12 months, etc. And they're doing everything in an online format. So usually alumni used to visit the campus for that. This is now happening all over Zoom. So, for example, I am doing a session for a particular industry track next week with the ISB cohort. Now, this 10-week module is here to stay. The duration might change, but ISB has confirmed that this model of online and offline delivery model is like a blend of synchronous and asynchronous learning. And this is the order of the day in the times that we live. So this will continue over the next year as well. The other changes, the big one is, as part of the DHM, is the Jumpstart India at ISB initiative, wherein ISB students will work with different parts of the government on any pressing problems or upcoming initiatives that they are working on. This year, understandably so, the theme is focusing only on how to how the economy can bounce back after the COVID crisis. So students are participating with the government officials and teams from there to write white papers, develop strategies, etc. The current plan for ISB to get students on campus is from the 1st of September onwards, which is starting term 2. And God willing, if that happens, that will be great for the students, because on campus is a different flavor and a different life altogether. ISB has tried and succeeded to some extent to have the first 10 weeks in an online format. However, like, we are working from home, it's the same thing, that the peer-to-peer in-person interaction, nothing can replace it. So that is something that we hope that ISB is able to impart to the current class. The other big changes to the timelines, there will be placements now in January instead of the usual November December timeline. ISB has also introduced a concept of a study track, which is a week-long uh, quote unquote internship at any corporate sector, or an industry or a manufacturing unit, where an ISB students can go and immerse themselves in the practical experience of how things work. And as I said, ISB intends to carry this along till the next year at least, if not more. The graduation will now happen on the 31st of May, which means that the class of 2022 or the 2021 intake are expected to have a first online module, which might be lower in duration than the current one, but that still might happen. So those were the broad changes to the program. We will take questions at the end. Do keep sending in the questions. I'll now pass over to Abhishek to cover the first essay topic that has come in. As you all are aware, the application deadline for round one is 20th of September. As is not announced a round two yet, and there might not be a round three at all. Hence, it's important to be abreast with whatever the changes to the application process of the essays are. So I'll pass it over to Abhishek to cover the analysis for the first essay.
Sure. Thanks, Manan. Thanks for all the updates on the ISB PGP program. And welcome, everyone. I will talk about the first essay, which this year is slightly different from what it used to be, while the basic essence of the essay still remains broadly similar. But what ISB has done this year is it's made it very tricky, and I'll read out the essay question for everyone's benefit. The question is: describe with examples the most important personal quality that you possess that significantly enhances your prospects of being successful as a leader. Now, we need to break it down and understand what they are actually asking us. And that's very important because what we have seen over the years, while consulting people, is that people consider the space for the essay to be nothing but an elaborated version of their resume, and therefore they go on talking about, I did this, I did that, I worked here, then I worked there, but they completely miss answering the question. And therefore, whenever you are about to write an essay, you need to understand what the question is asking you to do. So therefore, let's take a minute and look at the question. The question is: describe with examples the most important personal quality. So they are talking about the most important personal quality. So you need to talk about one quality. You cannot have a laundry list. You have to talk about one quality. And when they say personal quality, it means that's a part of your personality. So do not restrict yourself only to work or your academic life and just talk about your professional experiences. You can talk about personal experiences as well. Then they talk about, significantly enhancing your prospects of being successful as a leader. So you need to talk about something that is an input to leadership. It can be anything. It can be a personal quality like empathy, or collaborative nature, or innovation, or entrepreneurial spirit, or ability to perform under pressure, or being a great communicator, being a good listener, being a great team player, understanding the cultural nuances of people and where they come from. So there can be a lot of these examples, but as I said before, you need to talk about one personal quality, the most important quality, and you've got to talk about the one that would have the most impact, right? There can be lots of examples. You might have worked internationally, you might have worked in a multicultural setting, you might have worked in rural areas, you might have worked with underprivileged people, you might have worked in a warlike situation or a very tough situation. Say, for instance, there are people who apply who come from an army background, so they might have been at the war front, or been in, say, Siachen or in the northeast, where the climatic conditions are pretty harsh. So you can talk about a lot of those aspects, but you've got to talk about the most important one. So I think that's the key message, the first key message that I'd like to talk about. Then it's also important to develop on that particular example. As they say, describe with examples. So you pick one quality and then you start developing that in your essay, and you give examples to substantiate or demonstrate that quality. So for example, if your quality is entrepreneurial spirit, you talk about how you have demonstrated that entrepreneurial spirit in your work life or in your personal life as well. So in a work life setting, it can be starting up with a new product idea, or maybe starting a new business line altogether. In a personal setting, it can be starting uh, your RWA, for example. That is again, it may seem very basic, but it is actually a very important quality which demonstrates leadership. And that is what ISB is looking for. And as I said, you can feel free to talk about both personal and professional experiences here. Uh, Another important point here is to talk about how that is going to contribute to the class experience at ISB. While it is not mentioned there, In the past, ISB used to explicitly talk about that. So some of the previous essay questions were, if we were to take one more candidate to ISB's class, why should that be you? So they're talking about the class. Or ISB it values diversity in its class. So how would you contribute to diversity in the class? Again, they're talking about contribution to the class in the question itself. However, in this one, there is no mention of the ISB class. However, that does not mean that you cannot talk about contribution to the class. In fact, the difference between a good essay and a great essay would be, how do you connect the dots? How do you start with the key theme? How do you develop that theme with examples of your professional and personal life? And then how do you connect the dots to how that will impact the class experience at ISB? So, if, for example, you're talking about leadership, you're talking about some of the traits, you can demonstrate that and extend it to saying that I would like to be in a leadership position at ISB. It can be anything. It can be the GSB president, which is the college president, so to speak, and he probably is the most important guy on campus, representing the school with external stakeholders, looking at internal problems of the student body, whether it's academics, whether it is alumni relations, whether it is sports, whether it's placements. Everything is taken care of. Managing all the clubs, there are 25 odd clubs. So all of that is something that you can look at. So contribution to the class is very important. And when you talk about your contribution to the class, do not be generic. It should not be that that part of your essay can be just lifted and copy pasted to any other essay. From your ISB essay to your Harvard essay to your IM Ahmedabad essay to your NUS essay, it should not be that. It's got to be very, very specific to the school. So bring out your research about the school, bring out examples, bring out how you talk about the school and the events, and what are the various things that you can contribute to the class. It can be anything. It can be a professional club. You might be a great golfer and you may be the president of the golf club at ISB, who knows. But it's got to be very, very specific. And that, I think, is one important piece that is missing in a lot of essays, because in a question like this, ISB is playing a trick. That's why I said that they made it tricky this year, because they are not talking about the class experience, but it is an implicit question there, that how would your personality or your leadership contribute to the class experience at ISB. And peer learning is one important aspect, as Manan touched upon as well. So make sure that all these points are taken care of in your essay. And as I said, if you have all of these there in the right proportion, touching upon examples, making it specific, that is what a great essay would look like. Otherwise, uh, all of us know the rejection rates are far higher than the selection rates. So make sure that you are on the right side of the shortlist. I think that's about it from me on essay one, Manan. It'll be great if you can help us with your thoughts and insights on essay two.
Thanks, Abhishek. Great insights. So, unlike essay one, essay two is pretty standard, and it's this same as I would say the previous years, wherein ISB is intending to understand your short and long term goals and how ISB and the program at ISB can assist you in achieving those goals. One of the biggest reasons ISB is continuing with this in the ISB application, because unlike international programs of similar repute, ISB provides an end-to-end placement support. So one of the factors that ISB looks at when your essays and your profile is employability. That even immediately post ISB, are your goals aligned, and will you be employable right after ISB, and have a success to the placement process. So within this essay, there are actually three parts: identifying your short-term goals, identifying your long-term goals, and how would MBA help, and why at this stage, and why PGP. So let me get into each of them. Effectively, you should start off with giving a brief about your current role, and that's very important for the outcome to understand where you're coming from. So do not discount that factor. Ultimately talking about what your current role is, what are the challenges that you face, what are the job responsibilities, etc. Then you should link it to something that you want to do more beyond your current role, which is your effective, north star, or the long term path that we call it, right? And why in the current role you're not able to do justice to it, and you need an external help, whether it's an MBA from ISB or any other place, and that's very important. The second thing is more around articulating that short term goal in terms of what you are intending to do immediately after ISB. Again, the focus here should be, there should be some linkage to your prior experience. Otherwise, the story would not flow through, and it might seem unrealistic. So let me give you an example. If you are having 8 to 10 years of experience in say information technology, and you've been on the software delivery line of career trajectory, suddenly you say I want to switch to sales and marketing in B2C, then there will be a challenge, right? So you have to link it to your previous goal, as well as it has to be realistic. So it's very important to articulate it in that manner. The third thing is linking it to a long-term North Star, as I pointed out, because ultimately that's your end goal, right? You want to become a CXO, or start your own venture, or have a leadership position in any startup for that matter. Hence, it's important to link your short-term goals and effectively provide a glide path towards your long-term goals. Now, there might be cases where the role and industry that you're targeting in the short term is too competitive. It could be still a good idea to present a plan B as well there. However, both plan A and plan B should lead up to the same end goal. Uh, Ideally, you should be as specific as you can in terms of the long term goal. However, we all know things change, priorities change. So at least an inclination of where you see yourself in the next 10 to 15 years is something that you definitely should call out. Uh, then comes the part wherein the gaps, why your current role cannot help you achieve these goals, and that's where MBA will help, and an MBA from ISB will help. Now, it's important, obviously, to focus on why ISB and show your research. However, again, like Abhishek mentioned, let's caution ourselves to not be generic. Don't tell ISB something it already knows. Yes, it knows that the network is great, the faculty is awesome, there is diversity, and the brand matters. However, you have to show your research and be specific to a particular initiative which will lead to a higher skill set or an experience for you to achieve that long term goal and the short term goal that you're targeting. Now, however, having said that, the major part of your essay should be, should go into establishing the quality, context, and highlights of your current experience. Talking about, if you have taken any industry shifts or function shifts, talk about that. Mention the learning at each stage, and keep, I would say, a third or a fourth of the portion for why ISB, and be very specific, as I said. Uh, and essentially, what you should focus on is this links to your traits that you have highlighted in the previous essay. This links to the rest of the application that you have highlighted, that these are the traits that you have, these are the things that you don't have, and hence you're looking at ISB to embark upon those traits. It's very important that all your application elements are linked to each other. There is a consistency, even with the recommendations that also come in, for example. So hence you have to package it all together to look at it as a consistent story flowing from one end to the other end. All right. That's my spiel on the second essay. Obviously, feel free to ask questions here. Over to you, Tanmay.
Thanks, Manan. That was great. So, before we move on to the next section, here is another poll. So, please, cast your poll. Like, have you taken any exam? Have you taken the GMAT or GRE? Or you're going to appear soon? Or is it like you haven't started preparation? Okay, so 50% of the audience, or 55, okay, they have taken the GMAT. Okay, so we do have around 40% who are yet to appear for GMAT GRE. So Manan, Abhishek, like, what do you think? I mean, those those 44% who are yet to appear for the GMAT GRE. What do you think? Like, is that going to be too late? What's your take on that?
Sure, Tanmay, I'll be happy to answer that one. See, the way we work, and I'll just take a minute to explain how we work there so that you understand where I'm coming from. See, we work like a different. I mean, we do not work like a lot of other consultants who might say that you give me so much money or you buy this plan or that plan, then I'll give you 3 reviews or 5 reviews or so many hours of my time. We work on an application ownership model. What that means is that there is a flat fee, and regardless of whether you work with us for 3 weeks or 3 months, we own your application and we're going to have unlimited reviews of your essays and also support you on your application. There are various aspects like hobbies or job responsibilities or achievements in your application form. So a lot of candidates are confused about what to write in those sections. So we take care of all that as well, and we also help with the letter of recommendation. So for all of this, while it may seem a little easy, it's actually not that easy, because you need to do a lot of reflection and introspection to understand what your personality traits are. What are the things that you should be demonstrating in your essays and so on. And therefore, what we have seen over the years is that while we work with people for 3 months as well as for as little as 3 weeks on their applications, the average is usually around a month and a half to prepare a solid application. So if I back calculate from the 20th of September, which is the deadline for round one, even if you start your application somewhere around the 1st of August, I think you should be fine. As I said, there are people who work, who have already taken the GMAT or the GRE. So there are a few people who have already started working with us, aiming for the same deadline. And as people, get past their GMAT GRE stage, there will be more people working with us going forward as well. So while there is no right answer, the average that we have experienced over the last few years is around 45 days. Which I think gives you ample time to manage your application along with other commitments like your work or personal and social commitments as well. So that's what I would say. Manan, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and I totally agree with the timelines. And again, we also in this year need to be cognizant of the fact that round one will be slightly less competitive compared to round two, and there might not be a round three at all. Hence, it's important to try and apply in round one itself. And again, if you back calculate, effectively, you should be doing both the things now in parallel in case you have not started your GMAT preparation. In case you're taking it sometime in August, early August, I would still recommend you start off with your application now, so that your bare bone structure, or at least your thought process, is in place by the time you are done with your GMAT, and then you can go full throttle on the application.
Got it.
Yeah, and
So
just to
that's great.
add
Sure.
just one last point, Tanmay.
Mhm.
So ISB specifically, prefers people applying in round one. You need to understand from a B school's perspective. Every B school would want to have the best of the best in terms
Of
of
course, yeah,
talent,
yeah.
right? So what ISB does is, it gives almost all the scholarships in round one. Especially
Okay.
the merit based scholarships. So it's important that you look at round one if you believe that you can be ready with a solid application by the deadline. Do not unnecessarily delay it to the second round. However, we understand that people are at different stages of preparation, and if you're not
Of course.
able to prepare until the first round, you can definitely look at the second round. But given that a lot of people have already taken the GMAT according to your poll, if you are thinking, or you have that kind of a notion that round two you might have a better chance and so on, that's not really the case. So if you're done with your GMAT or GRE, our suggestion would be to give maximum time to your application and apply in round one, where you stand a good chance of a scholarship as well.
Great, great. So, audience, has a new poll. So, like, so what's your thought process? Which round you are going to apply? Is it round one, round two? So, 100% are saying they want to apply for the round one. Okay, so now we have got a few people who are either not sure or they are going to apply for round two. So that's a little bit. So guys, those who haven't taken GRE or GMAT, or you haven't started preparation, and it seems that most of the people actually want to apply for the round one. So please clear your GRE or GMAT, and as Manan and Abhishek said, even if you are going to apply for the GMAT or GRE in early August or mid August, it's only wise that you start off the application process, the essay structure and all. So, all right, now, before we go on to the Q&A round. So, Manan, so obviously in every year there are a number of reapplicants, to the program as well. So, how does ISB view reapplicants, while assessing their applications? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So, first up, I think the reapplicant essay is applicable in case you have applied as part of the PGP program earlier. So, in case you applied to YLP and you didn't get through, then you don't need to write the reapplicant essay. So that's the first sanity point. Now, a lot of people have reached out to us and asked whether being a reapplicant is that a disadvantage. The answer couldn't be farther from a yes. So it's absolutely not a disadvantage that you are a reapplicant. In fact, ISB is appreciative of the fact that you're keen to joining the school, and hence they take it positively. Now, how you should approach the reapplicant essay the is as follows. So see, there is a reality with it. If you had applied in round two earlier and now you're applying in round one, it's barely about 7 to 8 months of period. And ISB does understand that you couldn't have transformed everything. However, whatever little increments that you did in your profile, you should definitely highlight. For example, you took up a new project which was outside your comfort zone. Highlight that. In case you took up a new initiative which was going beyond the call of duty, highlight that. Any self-learning opportunity that you undertook, whether it was a course with respect to the gaps that you saw in your application. For example, you were from a consulting or a research background, you wanted to get into analytics. So if you have done a course in analytics, by all means show that. Uh, Talk about a higher GMAT or a GRE score, even if it's a 10-point change or a very minimal change, ISB will still appreciate the fact that you took out an effort to retake the GMAT, put in a lot of hard work, and then reapplied. So it shows a lot of grit and determination to mention that. Uh, the other thing I think in terms of questions that we get is if you planned a certain career path and highlighted that in the application, and if you fail to justify that in the interview, for example, how would you approach that? So again, you have to show how thorough research you did in case you have decided to opt for an alternative plan, and you validate that in the essay, and you don't have to hesitate to make that statement. Again, to give you an example, we worked with a couple of people in the last 2 years who were third and fourth time applicants, and they got through. And that is a testament to the fact that ISB appreciates that, and it's a never say never or a never say die attitude that you might have. Anything you want to add, Abhishek?
I think you have covered it very well, Manan, in terms of the points that you can demonstrate when it comes to the reapplication. One thing that I'd like to highlight is the fact that, while you might be applying for the second or the third time, understand that the guys on the other side of the table are way more experienced than you are in this process. And therefore, do not try to have stuff only for the sake of it. So, for instance, if you've never done any volunteering but you just do something in the last 3 months, they will be able to figure out that you're doing it only to enhance your application, and they would rather discount it than looking at it positively. So do something which actually interests you, and it need not only be social service. It can be anything. It can be joining a club, it can be taking a new initiative, it can be maybe even a sport or art or whatever. But the idea is that you should be able to, one, demonstrate what you have done additionally and how that will make you a better applicant this time. And secondly, you should have a genuine interest in that thing, because when you go to the interview, and both Manan and I have been on the ISB interview panels as well. The panel would actually have a bit of a background prep before they actually speak to you or call you in the room. So what happens there is that they'll look at your essays and they'll say, oh, okay, he's done this, he's done that, but ye point thoda ajeeb hai, let's grill him on that or grill her on that. So don't give them opportunities to grill you, okay? And that's very important, especially when you are a new applicant. There'll be a lot of spotlight on you on why you are so keen on the school, what are you trying to achieve, why did you do this in the last month or last few months, and so on. So be very, very clear that you have to write things which you are able to justify in your interviews, because eventually that's the final hurdle, and there'll be a lot of grilling, believe me. So make sure you're not just writing or doing anything for the heck of it. Make sure there is a proper thought going behind the new initiatives that you're taking, and ensure that you have enough material to demonstrate or substantiate that in the interview.
That's great. Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks, Manan. So before we open up for the Q&A round, here is the last poll. Sorry, guys. I know you might feel okay. There are too many polls, but again, just to understand, so that we can, help you with future webinars. So, what's your post MBA goal? What kind of industry would like to join after, after MBA, be it ISB or be it some other B school? Okay, so we don't have any aspiring entrepreneurs in this batch. No problem. Okay, now we have some. Okay, so mostly they want to get into general management and consulting, then entrepreneurship, product management, and banking financial services. Okay, so not too many IT or tech people, and also not too many researchers. That's absolutely fine. So okay, so
Yeah,
now we'll open up
it's
for the Q&A. Yeah, sure, go on.
something. It's an anomaly because the majority of the applicants or the current class would want to go into consulting.
I
I'm
was
happy.
about to say that,
Yeah,
Manan.
and I'm happy and happy that majority of this population wants to get into general management, which is my area of interest and experience. So feel free to have a chat, guys. Happy to load all the GAN that I've got in the past 5-7 years.
That's great, great.
Okay.
All right. So, all right, guys. Now, thanks, audience. Thanks for putting the option. I'm just ending the poll now. So now we'll open up for the Q&A round. So we have a few questions. So okay, we'll start from the recent ones. Okay. So Shashank has asked, need to understand a little bit more about scholarship. What are the factors that affect the scholarship? So Manan or
Sure, I can take that, Tanmay. So
what are the
Shashank,
factors that affect the scholarships?
sure. So there are two kinds of scholarships predominantly. One is the need-based scholarships, and the other is the merit-based scholarships. Now, on the need-based, they would look at your income levels, and they'll ask for all such details in the application as well, because they want to ascertain that you actually have a genuine need for a scholarship, and therefore they would give you a scholarship based on your needs. On the merit-based scholarships. There is no correct answer. It totally depends on who you are and what you're bringing to the table, and they are generally people who have something which is very, very different from the rest of the candidate pool. So for example, in my class there was a guy who got 100% scholarship from ISB, and his profile was something like, he already was a CFA. He already had a master's in game theory from Scotland. He used to give lectures on management lessons from Bharata, and he had also campaigned for Hema Malini in the UP elections. Now, that's a very diverse profile, right? You are a CFA and a master's in game theory, and you have campaigned for Hema Malini, and you have delivered lectures on management lessons in Mahabharata. And in professional life, he was doing something on his own in the real estate sector. So that is a very different one. Now, another example, not from my class, but what I know is that somebody landed 100% scholarship at ISB because that female was very open about her sexuality in her interview, and she mentioned that she's a lesbian, and that was taken very positively. That she was very open about it. So there is no correct answer to the merit-based scholarship. I think if you are a pro trader or a pro investment banker earning lakhs and crores of rupees at this stage, I don't think you will land a scholarship in that case. But if you are somebody who brings a lot of value to the class in terms of the diversity and the class experience, then I think ISB would definitely consider you for a merit-based scholarship. Manan, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so with respect to that, I would suggest you visit the ISB website, and there are a bunch of them, as Abhishek pointed out, in the merit and non-merit based. There are a few which you can apply while at ISB as well, like Citibank scholarship for women, and again, you have to have done something beyond your current profile or your role, whether it's as Abhishek pointed out, an achievement or a big one or a spike as they call it, within work, academics, or extracurriculars. So yeah, we can move on to the next question, Tanmay.
Yeah, thanks, Manan. So the next question is from Deepak. So Deepak is asking, can you share the breakup of selection criteria or prerequisite for the selection? And also, like, that's pretty much quite aligned with the question I wanted to ask. Like, what does ISB look for in a candidate? So, if you guys just, share your thoughts on this.
Sure. I would put this into three buckets. One is learnability, wherein ISB looks at whether you will be able to manage the fast-paced, academically heavy program at ISB, and that is obviously an indication that you would have had good ACAD scores, a great GMAT score as well, wherein they are looking at somebody who will be able to sustain and do great with the academic rigor at ISB. So how well you will be able to cope up with that. Second is, as I said in the second essay analysis, talking about employability. Whether your goals are practical, whether your profile is as good prior to ISB that you will be they'll be able to place you and obviously improve their results as a school. That is a very important factor. And the third is the leadership in the extracurriculars that you bring with you. What is the value to the cohort that you bring, which Abhishek touched upon in the first essay. What are your interests and passions and hobbies, wherein how diverse or different are you? And again, it doesn't mean that you have to be at the top of any hobby that you're doing it. If you like playing cricket, that does not mean you have to play for a state team. It can be that you play club cricket and you continue to do that and maybe conduct coaching sessions as well. So these are the three broad factors or avenues that I would say ISB looks at. Now, the
So,
second question.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the factors, I mean, because, even like Shashank and, other guys are also asking, like, can you just tell, like, what kind of percentage? I know it's very hard to tell the exact percentage, but any
Yeah.
approximate weightage, like, is it like
Sure.
20% weightage on GMAT or 30% weightage on GPA or experience,
Okay.
leadership?
Okay.
So how would like address that? Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, ISB does not reveal the percentages, but think of this as an equation wherein a weight into your academics, a weight factor into your experience, something into the GMAT score, something into the essays, and something into the interview. So it's a combination of that. Now, if you lack something in one area, whether it's academics or for that matter a GMAT score, you should be able to have something which you make up for in the rest of the elements. Uh, in order of priority, I think there are three major things that ISB would look at: your essays definitely, your interviews definitely, and your ACADS plus GMAT score. Now, what I know for a fact is they have different slabs for different GMAT score ranges, and it goes up to 750. So if anything beyond 750 is the same score is what they have. So all the games or all the playing around happens between that sub 750 range, and obviously there is a mean or an average number which is 710, 711 that is there in the class. So if you're around that, then it definitely bodes well for you. Abhishek?
Yeah, just to add to
Okay.
that, and this is a very common question that we come across people who come to us, uh, is coming from that typical Indian mindset. What is the cutoff for my GMAT? Or what is the minimum score I need to get? Uh, See, we need to understand that ISB is not a typical Indian B school. It's based on the Western system of education. It's got partners like Kellogg and Wharton, etc. And the idea here is to not just be hung up on a particular score, and therefore you'll see that the range of GMAT or GRE scores is very wide when it comes to the ISB class. A typical GMAT range would be 600 to 760 or thereabouts. GRE would be say around 305 to 335 or whatever. So the idea is not to just get a good score because they are looking at a cutoff. The idea should be to get the maximum score possible. Like any other exam, the higher the score, the better it is, and therefore you should give it your best. But coming back to the selection criteria, see, there is no correct answer. As Manan said, ISB doesn't reveal it to anybody in terms of are there any particular percentages. But over the years we have seen some exceptional profiles not making it to ISB because of poor essays, and some mediocre or average profiles making it to ISB because of some great essays and how they were able to present their story. So it's important that you take it as a package, as Manan said, like an equation or like a package. If you are lacking in one area, make sure you compensate that in another area. Okay. And the sad part is that you cannot actually go back in time and change a lot of your academics or experience. But the good part is that you still have some way to go, in terms of your GMAT or GRE score and how you present your profile in your application and your essays. So make sure that you're putting your best foot forward when it comes to the things that you can still control. But just to answer that question, I think there is no correct answer on a breakup of selection criteria.
Yeah,
I think I'll leave you with that.
yeah, and
Sure, sure. That's
it
great.
like
No,
all
go on.
MBA answers, this it all boils down to something called it depends, and that's what it is.
All right. No, so there are two interesting questions from Sahil and Shashank. So, the pre-MBA experience, say, maybe the entrepreneurial experience or maybe some social sector experience, be it, some professional NGO or social experience, or maybe like Shashank, he has got prior experience in strategy. So, do these things, affect the application and later stage the placement? So, for example, say if someone is already from the strategy background, so is it like maybe even during the placements that that guy or girl is going to be placed in the strategy role? Is it going to be a stereotype kind of thing? So how this pre-MBA experience affects the application and the placements. What are your thoughts?
Sure. Tanmay, I think I can take that because I was with the strategy team at Deutsche Bank before ISB. So, I can relate to that completely. Uh, I think it depends on what you are trying to achieve. So, for example, Shashank, if you are coming with a prior experience in strategy, and you are looking to get into strategy consulting or looking at a strategy role or a leadership role in say an Aditya Birla or a city that come with strategy slash general management leadership roles, that would be a plus, definitely, because you've been in strategy roles, and the recruiter would understand that you would not be have to trained a lot, or you do not have to unlearn a lot of stuff and relearn a lot of stuff. So that way it would help. Uh, in terms of admissions, uh, not exactly. I mean, not necessarily, because in admissions it is open to everybody. It is open, as you would know. There are lawyers and doctors and army background people and journalists and media professionals and chartered accountants and everybody coming into the ISB class. So it is not necessarily a plus unless you can demonstrate it to be a plus. Okay. And that goes for anybody and everybody. The same question can be for a doctor. Why do you want to switch from your medicine profession to business and go for business education? So you need to be able to justify why you are making this move, and that is where your second essay comes in, and your questions based on the second essay would come in your interview. But just because you work with a McKinsey or a BCG or a Bain does not mean that you will have an upper hand when it comes to admissions, because you might be a great guy, but if you're not able to demonstrate who you are and what you bring to the class at ISB, it does not make a difference. I mean, we have seen people with strong experience, 750 GMAT experience with a big four consulting firm, national level swimming, but they did not make it to ISB because they did not do a good job demonstrating who they are and what they could bring to the class.
Got it. Okay, so next is a very interesting question from Gauri Dev. So I'm aiming for pursuing MBA through the ISB YLP program. The referral system gives us time to gain 2 years of work ex, but if we get through, then we will be in a class with other professionals with more work experience. Can this prove to be a disadvantage at the time of placement? Your thoughts, Manan or Abhishek?
So, in fact, with YLP and early entry option, I think you are at an advantage because at least a year or 2 years prior to you start ISB, you have an open field in terms of taking a step towards your end goals, right? That's one reality. Second, Gauri, is in terms of disadvantage with respect to the rest of the peers. See, understand, ISB has. I'm sorry, there is a lot of background noise. Tanvi, can you go on mute, please? Thanks. At ISB, there is the experience range that you would see is from 2 years to 15 to 20 years in some cases, right? And majority of the people are in the sub 5 year bracket. So, which is a sweet spot for the companies wherein you can unlearn certain things and you are able to learn new things. So, you're not at a disadvantage even if you have lesser experience there, right? In fact, the placements are, if I were to stack them up, sub 5 years, because a majority of the people are that, and companies, as I said, are looking for future leaders. The placement percentage is better in that bracket. And as I said, you have some time prior to ISB to hone your skills, to walk towards the end goal that you're looking at, then it's an advantage. In fact, during the YLP, there are multiple touch points wherein you visit campus, have some classes there, interact with the current class. So you will be able to get a flavor of how things are going around and what you need to do to sort of stand out with the rest of the group. It could be as basic as, from academics point of view, if you are an engineer, you can brush up your accounting and finance skills. And if you are from the humanities background, you can do accounting, finance, statistics, etc. in the 2 years, so that you are better prepared to take on the academic rigor at ISB, for example. Abhishek, would you like to add anything there?
Yeah, just to add again, Gauri, that's a good question, and we've come across this question multiple times in the past. Uh, See, everybody would come with their own experience, So YP and early entry guys would feel, oh, I am at a disadvantage. The senior executives, more than 8 years of work ex, they would feel, oh, I am at a disadvantage. The guys in the middle would believe, oh, I am in the middle of the two, I am at a disadvantage. So it is not an advantage or a disadvantage. Once you get into ISB, you are an ISB student, and you are taken to be one. You are not discriminated. Oh, ye to while be, unless
Yeah.
you are just there's a banter amongst the classmates, or you are just joking around. Otherwise, from a professional recruitment perspective, or any other area for that matter, YLP is a mode of entry. Early entry option is a mode of entry. Once you are at ISB, you are a student like anybody else. Okay. And to me personally, I have the highest regards for my YLP classmates, because they were some of the smartest people that I came across at ISB. And there was sheer brain power and a lot of rigor and a lot of enthusiasm that they brought to the class. And it was amazing to be with those folks, and at the same time, I had people with 20 years of experience as well. So To answer your question, these 2 years would give you, some time to uh, understand where you want to be and work towards it, because you have secured an admission into ISB and you know for a fact that you are going to get in and start your course at a particular date. So make sure that you utilize these 2 years to the best of your knowledge and your abilities, and make sure that it is in line with your longer term career goals as well.
Okay, so next query is a little bit. I mean, I get these questions, a lot during the MS applications, but not really during the MBA webinars or blogs. So, does specific MOOCs from Coursera or edX, are helpful in application? Because I have seen, especially for be it MS in STEM programs, some of the MOOCs are helpful, provided that we actually utilize them, because just having the certifications don't help at all. But having, after doing those courses, if you somehow make some impact, then that actually make a good impact in the application. How is it with the MBA? What do you think, what is the advantage of taking MOOCs?
Okay,
Would
I'll
you want
take
to take
that
that?
one. Uh, okay, I can take that one. See, Tanmay and Deepak, since you asked this question, see, MOOCs are a way to enhance your skills and knowledge. They are not an end in itself. I mean, somebody would not take you just because you've done a course in AI or machine learning, just because these are flavors of the day, right? Why did you take those MOOCs? What were you trying to achieve? How is that helped? How will that help at the class at ISB? How does that align with your short term or long term career goal? If you're able to answer all these questions, then a specific MOOC from a Coursera or a Udemy or an edX would be helpful. However, just because you've done a course, I am not gonna. I don't care. Okay, or the admissions committee doesn't care. I mean, they don't care whether you went to IIT or SRCC or any of those colleges and studied for 3 years. They're not going to care about an online course, right? What they are caring about is, why did you take those courses? What were the decisions, influencers behind that, and how is that linked or aligned with your short-term, long-term career goals? And how are you, going to align ISB's PGP program in that career goal or track as well? So that's my answer to that. Doing an online course, especially in today's time when there's a plethora of that, it doesn't really make too much of a difference.
Yeah, agreed, Abhishek. Yes. Okay, Tanmay, next one.
Yeah, so next we have a question from Rachi. Considering the current COVID situation, will the classes for the next year resume offline in campus for next year May classes? What do you think? What's going to happen?
I'm sorry, I could not get the question. If Abhishek, you heard
Uh,
it. So,
Okay.
Considering the
Yeah,
current COVID situation, yeah.
yeah, I got it. So it's about the COVID situation and how the classes are going to pan out over the next year or so. So there are 2 or 3 points that I'd like to mention here. Uh, Firstly, as Manan pointed out in the initial section, ISB is on track to start the courses on campus from the 1st of September. And I'm sure, as the economy has opened up and, various sectors have opened up, ISB being, the organization or the school that it is, setting very high standards for everything, I'm sure that they are going to have measures in place for social distancing or ensuring that there is a safe environment for everybody to learn on campus. So I believe that they should be able to maintain hygiene and take care of everybody when it comes to looking at the COVID situation. I don't really think about that as being an issue. Another point that I'd like to touch upon, and again, that's a very common question that we have, come across this year, is it the right time to, go for an MBA? And I think I saw this on the chat window as well, so I'll take it up. Uh, I think a lot of people are just looking at it from a very short-term view and are not able to understand that. Uh, this might actually be the best time to go for an MBA, because you're applying in 2020 and your course would begin in 2021 and you would graduate by 2022. Now it is about 2 years from today, right? When you actually enter the economy back, or you enter the corporate sector, or you want to start up on your own, or whatever the case is. And therefore, you need to have that kind of a vision. If I go back to some of the recent recessions, or downturns in the economy, the recent one was about 10, 12 years ago, 2008. 2008, things were very similar. They were looking down, people were fearful. They did not know whether they should be going for an MBA or a master's program. But when they graduated in 2010, they had the biggest bull run, or the biggest growth phase in the history of the world economy. Because from 2010 to 2020, it was only looking up, whether it was the West, whether it was Asia Pacific, Europe, everywhere things were looking up. And I see no reason why that would not happen again. Yes, the recovery can be a bit slow as compared to 2008, because 2008-9 was predominantly the financial sector getting impacted. But again, in my view, I think 2 years is a good enough time period for the economy to be back on track. And then you enter the business cycle when things only start to look up. So in my view, it's a good time, and I think you should definitely be considering going for an MBA if you've already started thinking in that direction.
Yeah, that's correct. From personal experience, when Abhishek and I, both of us started our careers in 2008. 2 months after I started my first job, three of my biggest clients went out of business, and these are three large players in the US banking space, and I wouldn't want to name them now. But it turned out to be fine, because ultimately, things started to look up after that 2009 onwards. So as Abhishek pointed out, you want to start when you are staring at an upward trajectory, in which will happen in 2020 or 2022. The other aspect is, during this time, a lot of B schools experience a higher number of applications. So according to GMAC in 2009, and for the 2008-9 application season, they experienced 25% more applications. And in fact, ISB as well at that time experienced at least a 20 to 25% higher rate of applications, because of the same point that people would want to ride this storm and come out of the storm with a higher skill set, and you've learned something a lot more to take on the world. So definitely we should look at that. So I think Tanmoy left the room. So there's another question, interesting one from Anindo. Given that ISB is mostly filled with 2 to 5 years of experience, 95% of people, is there a disadvantage when it comes to placements for people with 6 to 7 years of experience? And even the senior exec club is only for 8 plus to help them finding jobs. So before I pass this on to Abhishek, 2 to 5 years of experience is I would say not 95% of the people, much less than that. So if you look at the average experience, it's about 4.5 years for the class of 2020. 4.3 years to be exact at both campuses. So that tells you about the Hyderabad versus Mohali, which we will touch upon. So the number is far lesser. That's one thought I would like to debunk. Second, I would defer this to Abhishek, because he started his ISB journey with almost 6 years of experience. And if you can talk about how it pan out for you, it'll be a good insight for Anindo and everybody else.
Sure, Manan. So yeah, as Manan said, I had around 7 years of experience before ISB, and again, it's not 95% of the people, but it's lesser than that. Maybe those 70-75% would lie in that bracket. So answering your question, I think there is no disadvantage as such, as long as you are able to uh, give the recruiter what they're looking for. So if they are looking at your skill sets and that's the kind of skills or experience that they want, then it should be fine. And it's actually, it turns out to be an advantage in a lot of aspects. So, for instance, one recruiter told me that we are looking for somebody to be the right hand of the CEO. And while the JD says that we're looking at 2 to 4 years of work ex, I would actually be interested in you with 6 to 7 years of work ex, because you are more mature and you can handle the pressure that a CEO's office would demand than somebody who is, with 2 to 3 years of work ex. So it depends on what the requirement is and are you fitting the bill. See, any organization when they're recruiting, they are looking for a best fit, right? At my class at ISB, there were even CFO jobs that wanted people to have 15 to 20 years of experience in finance roles. So there are all kinds of jobs that come to campus. There are people looking at 2 to 3 years of work ex. There are people looking at more than 5, more than 7 as well. So, for example, the Aditya Birla leadership program, they have two modules. There is a lead and a leap. One of them looks at people with up to 4 years of work ex, and the other looks at 4 to 10 years or 4 to 8 years, whatever the best fit is. You are at a disadvantage if you are going in with more than 5 years of work ex. It can be a challenge in some cases where you want to switch the industry from, say, software to finance, which is a drastic shift. People still can do that. We have seen over the years that people have done that successfully, but that can be one concern that people might have, that you're coming with 6 years in TCS or Infosys. How do you expect to be doing well in a finance role? But apart from that, I think as long as you are in line and you have transferable skills for the recruiter in question, you should be fine. That's what I would say.
Great.
Tanmay, are you back?
Yeah. I got dropped off
Okay.
for a while.
Yeah, sure.
We have Gauri in the room. So she's live, on air now. So I'm not sure. So Gauri, if you can go ahead and ask whatever queries you might have.
Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists, for answering my question earlier as well. Actually, I have a very weird case. I'm actually applying for the second round of ISB YLP right now. I somehow cleared the first round. So right now, the issue is that I was planning for the offline GMAT, but there is this online GMAT in my way. And unfortunately, I've read many negative reviews as of now, like a lot many negative reviews for online GMAT. So that is my major concern, and this is July already, and the deadline for the second round is 31st of August. And I'm yet to go about my LOR and essay. I mean, I have a fair idea about what I'm going to write, but I'm yet to frame it out exactly. So, what do you guys think about it? Like, should I actually wait for the offline centers, which might delay it even more? But I'm really not in favor of online GMAT. So, what do you suggest?
See, we don't know, for instance, currently when the centers would open up. I heard last 17th of July was one of the dates that was floating around from GMAC India. However, given the rise in number of cases, they might still not go for it. The major issues that people were facing were with the whiteboard earlier on the GMAT online, and I think now they have taken that requirement away or relaxed it a bit, that you can use your notepad as well. So if you can just check on that, it will be better. Second thing I would say again is, let's not delay the process. Yes, you're uncomfortable, but having said that, there'll be multiple such moments during your stint at ISB and your career. So this can be one of the stories that you tell the recruiters or the admissions consultants or admissions committee, etc., that you triumphed despite all these issues that you were facing. So I would say, make up your mind, go for it. The only tip I would give is, it's ultimately about practice and getting used to it. So like we tell our GMAT strategy clients as well, it is about getting into that rhythm, and the test day should not be a surprise to you. So hence, make sure that you know what to expect. You are prepared with whatever that might come in. You are familiar whether with the online whiteboard or the offline whiteboard. You might want to take it a little late, and practice for 15, 20, 25 days and do that. But do not defer it beyond, in the hope of getting a GMAT offline center opening up. So long story short, yes, take it. At the same time, parallelly work on your application, and start framing that. I think 31st August is the deadline, so I would say you get cracking on both of them. Okay.
Uh,
uh,
Thank you for that. But then again, the problem is that I don't have an issue with the preparation here. Like, I am quite comfortable. They've allowed for the physical whiteboard. I am quite comfortable with it. But the issue is in the processing. Like, whatever negative reviews I've read, that is on behalf of the processing of like the time it takes for the online GMAT, and also like there was this guy who's like the exam got cancelled at the very last moment and he could not hear from them, and that was for months, and he missed his deadline for the same.
Again, see
See,
as a
what? Sorry, what I feel like, is
yeah.
like not like Gauri, you are the only candidate who is facing this
Yeah.
issue. Like, obviously, I don't handle the MBA applications, but this is what I have been saying. The clients who work with me on their MS applications, because even mostly they take GRE, but for MS Business Analytics or MS Finance or some other programs, business programs, they have to take the GMAT as well. So so I think I think don't feel so negative to hope for the best. I can understand a lot of things depend on the GMAT, but again, earlier the things we have discussed, GMAT is not the only factor. At the end of the day, it's just one of the major 4 or 5 factors that the admission committee will look at. And again, during this time, when you're in a very tricky situation, because a lot of people are hoping that the physical centers will open up, but they don't know why, and there are strict deadlines, so you have to adhere to that. So I think fix your mind, have some practice. There are negative reviews, I do admit, but then you have to work around that because there is no other alternative. And as I said, it's not that you are having this issue. A lot of people around the world are having these problems. At least with ISB, a lot of applicants might having the same issue.
Yeah.
No, Abhishek, please go on. Like whatever suggestion you might have.
Thanks, Tanmay. Thank you, Gauri, for your question. In
Thank
case
you.
you have
Thank
any
you.
questions, feel free to reach out offline. We can talk about it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay. I see another recurring theme around referrals and recommendations. So who is the best person to provide recommendations? So Abhishek, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure, Manan, I can take that one. So, see, there is no one answer, but ideally, your recommender should be somebody who works with you and is currently working with you. So it can be your reporting manager or somebody higher up the ladder as well, as long as they can give you the right recommendation. Somebody who genuinely understands your case and is willing to take it seriously and invest the time that is needed. See, in any case, what happens 90% of the times is that people would say, why don't you give me a draft and I will edit and I will submit it to the school. And therefore, the recommendations are also covered in our application services, because the talking points of the recommendations or the key themes of the recommendation should not be very different from your application essays. But you cannot write it for yourself, because you're going to write the essays and the writing styles cannot be the same. So there is no right answer, but try reach out to your boss or your boss's boss or whosoever you are comfortable with, because there is always that thought that what if I do not get through and I have to continue working in the same organization. So somebody who can do this confidentially for you, and every year thousands of people apply, and they are able to find such people who can help them out. So just go for that. It should not really be somebody with whom you have worked in the past, but that was too long ago. So if you have worked for 5 years and you're going to the first year in a different organization, it would better to have somebody who's current, somebody who can give you the right recommendation. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a fancy designation that you need it from a director or a vice president or so on. But go for the person who you believe would give you the best recommendation possible.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we can take one last question in the interest of time. So again, a similar question comes in from a lot of people who have taken up their post graduation or completed an MBA, and now from either their tier 2 school or some other school, and they want to now apply for ISB, and they want to understand whether would that negatively affect their chances. So again, short answer, no. However, you should expect to be probed in terms of why did you go for an MBA in the first place, and why do you want to obviously go for an MBA now, given the fact that you already are have gone through the journey and a similar course content in another school. So effectively, again, it boils down to the same principles of your current profile, current role, where you're coming from and where you want to go. So you have to link it with respect to that. To give you an example, in my class at ISB, there was somebody who had graduated and did his MBA from MDI Gurgaon, which is itself a pretty known school and in the 2 year MBA circle. And he then went for an MBA at ISB. So it is clearly a testament that you can do it. In fact, last year we worked with somebody who had done his MBA from IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi, and then he went on to ISB for his MBA in another discipline, and now is doing pretty well that way. So, short answer, I don't think it should impact. It's more about, again, linking it to your goals. Definitely expect a question in the interviews, because it's not something that people do all the time, right? So I would leave it at that. Okay. So uh, anything else? Okay. So other questions, if you have, please do feel free to visit the website, reach out to us on our contact information here, or feel free to call us. The numbers are there on the website. Tanmay, over to you.
I think sure. So guys, like if you have more questions, I do understand there are a lot of questions. What you could also do on strategy for GMAT website, so you guys can go on, and they have got a profile evaluation or essay evaluation form. So maybe you can just upload your CV, or you can just upload your maybe essay, and after the evaluation, Manan or Abhishek, will definitely reach out to you guys, or maybe someone else from the strategy team. At the same time, if you have got any queries, some other queries, for other MBA applications, you can always reach out to Manan or Abhishek. For any kind of other queries, some other applications, online courses, feel to reach out to me or our customer support at the Stoodnt.com email. So I'd like to wrap it up. I think we had a very good session and a pretty good discussion. We touched upon a lot of points, and I believe you guys will be going home with some good take home message. So just to round it up, any last message, any final tip, Manan or Abhishek, then we can just close the session.
Okay. Guys, in any case, the application process is one which requires a lot of introspection and deliberation, and what you come out of it is knowing yourself a lot better, because ultimately you essentially chalk out your life right from school to whatever you're doing now to whatever you want to do going forward. So take it and enjoy that experience, and be mindful of the fact that ISB is looking for a particular or type of responses or set of applications. Ultimately, I would say is be very structured. I can't stress this enough. As we mentioned before, make even though you've got the credentials, does not mean you will get through. It might just be a foot in the door, but ultimately the way you put across the ideas, how interesting your applications is, how interesting your essays are, will matter a lot. ISB Adcom will read hundreds of essays every day. So there has to be something that in your essay and your profile that captures their interest and they cling it on. So that's one. Second, do not underestimate the importance of the application, the rest of it, job responsibilities, achievements, etc. Again, those are the first things that an AdCom would look at before reading your essay. So if there is a good deal of impact there and it is succinct, then it would definitely help you out in that regard. Abhishek?
Yeah, I think very valid points, Manan, but I'd just like to add one more point. See, keeping everything in mind, whatever Manan mentioned, guys, make sure that you be yourself. Do not try to just impress the admissions committee by throwing in jargon or, having some quotes like Mahatma Gandhi said this and I totally agree and I just follow that philosophy. Don't do all of that. Just be yourself. And if you are presenting yourself on paper in the best possible manner, you will get through.
No, thanks, Abhishek. Thanks, Manan. Just before we leave, just I would like to share the just a few things. So again, student counselor's page. Obviously you can definitely reach out to Manan Abhishek, but in case you need some the other feedback, we have got experts including Manan and Abhishek as well. So Ajay Singh, Yuri Puch, we have got they are from
Sorry, Tanmay, I think we lost you.
Tanmay, are you there? So guys, I think what Tanmay wanted to mention was that, on the Stoodnt website, there is a counselor's page where you can just go Stoodnt as counselor. So in case you want any further support, you have any further questions, you can book a counseling session, and that would be a personalized one-to-one session for you guys, and you can get all your queries solved from there as well.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Just closing the session now. Take care.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Thanks
all
a
the
lot,
best.
everyone. Stay safe. All the best for your applications.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.